Okay. Good morning. We're starting Daily Tanya. This is for Monday, Labor Day, September 1st. Also in Hebrew, the 9th of the Hebrew month of Elul. So today we start epistle number 12. And the reward, it says, it's also a letter about giving charity. And he starts with a verse from Isaiah. The verse says, and the reward for the act of charity, of tzedakah, will be peace. You want to know so this is, he's telling you, the prophet is saying, you give tzedakah, the act of tzedakah, you get peace. And it continues, the reward for the service of tzedakah, it's a different Hebrew word, avodat tzedakah, is quietness and security forever. As is very typical in Chassidus, it doesn't say, oh, this is just, hyperbole, or it's just, poetic, repeating itself. It's divine word, prophetic divine words, and every word is telling of a different point. So then, if that is the case, what is the prophet saying? The act, what's an act of charity versus a service of charity? And the second question is, why does one result in shalom? One results in shalom, one results in a security, right? So to understand this, we have to look what the sages of blessed memory said about Aisei Shalom B'Mramav. We say Osei Shalom B'Mramav, right? The God makes peace in the high places. Osei Shalom B'Mramav, right? We say all the time. What it's referring to is that God makes peace amongst angels. That's interesting. So let's back up. Just like there's physical people and different types of people, there are, and things and animals and plants. There's a spiritual version of everything in a higher supernal realm, which is a world of angels. And what are the angels? The angels, let's say, are the spiritual, the way something down here exists in a physical way, the way it exists in a conceptual, spiritual idea. So let's talk about the Jewish people. The Jewish people, we know, it says we have, every nation has an angel, so to speak. We have angels also. One angel we have is Michael, who is known the prince, the minister of water, the angel of water, or the prince, whatever that means. We have another angel called Gabriel is the prince of fire. Yeah, they do not extinguish one another. Okay, so what does that mean? So obviously, it's not like, there's Aquaman versus Fireman in the heavens, like, the Greeks try to depict stuff, and Marvel Comics tried to capitalize on that. It means there's a very spiritual idea that a symbol for that would be water. Another spiritual idea, which is the angel embodies or is the kind of consciousness of that idea. And that's what means. It's an angel. There's kind of this like consciousness that embodies or manifests this energy, this true energy that exists. What's fire and water in the spiritual realms? So he says, this means to say that Michael is the Sar Shel Chesed. Water is known as kindness, which is called water because why is kindness? We know back up, right? God created the world through a medium called the 10 spheros, the energies that manifest creative power, animating power. And we know the first two are very famous. First, we're going to talk about the first three today, actually. The first one is chesed, God's kindness, bestowal. That is symbolized by water, because water flows from a higher place, and it flows downward. Right, wherever there's gravity or slope, the water will flow downward. In spiritual terms, the Tanya goes on, this descent means the kindness of God is the bestowal and diffusion of the divine life force from the higher to the lower worlds. Okay, so now we covered that. Kindness. So Michael, the archangel Michael, is the angel of kindness, symbolized by water. Gavriel's the minister, the angel of fire. Fire, what is fire the symbol of? The fire's nature is to soar aloft from below to, it's like erratically trying to, not erratically, it's like passionately trying to go up. That is the thrust of the other big energy called Gevura. Gevura literally means severity. It's one of the sfirot, the godly energy creative forces. What is Gevura? So severity is the literal translation. What it really means is, it means discernment. Discernment is, I don't just give freely. I focus, I discern where is the fitting place for my bestowal of energy, and I focus to there. But it's not everywhere. It's like laser focus. Why is it fire? Because essentially you're saying, I'm only going to give of self to the perfect place, to the deserving place. That is like the idea, that is an upward thrust. It's not giving down. It's saying, where is the holiness? That's where I'm going to go. It's not, you're not giving. It's just, you're giving in a very, very intense and immense contracted way. Again, like a laser beam. So it's not stinginess. It's not like, you're not giving it all as a hallmark of klipa, of the unholiness. Unholiness takes and doesn't give. Anything in kedusha is giving. The question is it giving wherever there's lack without any discernment, or is it giving to the deserving, the right place, and ignore and not dealing with the the undeserving places? So that's why it's fire, because it's like, I'm only seeking out God. I'm not going to deal with anything other than the godly truth, like fire going up. More to talk about that, but that's enough for now. Now, these attributes, again, these are godly attributes that God creates in order to manifest his creative power into the world. They are opposites. And by the way, the angels are, I guess, the embodiment of the sfirot. And what's the difference of a sphira and an angel? It sounds like the angels are just more the there's myriads, there's so many levels in between the pristine energy, and then there's a whole pipeline, so to speak, of how it goes from more infinite to more finite. Okay. They're in conflict. You can't have both. You can't go up and down at the same time. So this is what we said earlier. Oseh Shalom b'mamav. God makes peace in the higher realms. God is reconciling or integrating opposite necessary energies to coexist and even to complement each other. When Hashem makes peace between these two energies, how is that done? This is done through a revelation. So that an immense illumination and intense, so it says through revelation, of a very high level revelation, an intense effusion of God's infinite light is revealed within them. Because, like God's name is, ain't God's known in many places the infinite one. Meaning, God is not found in any. You can't say while God makes bridges to connect from the infinite to the finite, you can't say God is limited to those bridges. God really transcends all those bridges, and He's transcending them infinitely. Even the highest bridge, let's say from just infinite pristine oneness to stuff, to multitude of stuff, the highest of the 10 sphere is the intellectual faculties, the divine chachma bina dat. God's even above that. You can't say God is limited to divine wisdom. It's also a box, as supernal as it is. So when God reveals kind of a transcendent, I'm above the system type of light, then continues the opposing attributes of Michael, kindness, and Gavriel, severity, Gevura, they are absorbed in their root and source and root, and they become truly unified. And they become nullified within God's light, which radiates to them in a manifest way. So an example, this would be, for example, a king has to run his kingdom, needs different ministers of different departments. Let's say the minister of finance and the minister of war, of defense. Each one has a very different agenda. One is a retired five-star general that's all about security and squashing the enemy, and one is about economic prosperity and making sure the home front is prospering. Each one wants to spend a lot of money on their department. And they argue, no, I need $1 billion. I need $1 billion, So a lot of times, where does that kind of argument of there's only $1 billion and I want most of it for my budget. No, that is when they lose sight of that they are servants, as important departments as they are servants of the same one king, the same one nation. Meaning the pledge of allegiance that they are to something that is greater than defense or economy. It's the kingdom that they're serving. It can be the king, the kingdom, however you want to work it out. When the king comes into the room, the king being the emblem of the kingdom and of the people, then. And the king, they know the king wants both and them to work it out, because the king doesn't want to have a bad economy and only war, defense, and vice versa. So when they have that kind of revelation of the king himself, they learn to suspend their particularism that's getting them to conflict and to realize they're nothing more than two arms of one king, of one kingdom. That makes sense as an analogy. Mm-hmm. So when God in what's trying to bring out is that when God, in order for the system of God's kingdom, aka the universe, reality, to exist, Hashem, of course, makes a system. We talked about, right? Angels and Sephirot and Kabbalah is full of that. But God is also the one God above all the system. All the system is just parts to make the world, whatever. When God steps into the room, so to speak, the transcendent essence of God steps into the room, then they can be tempered and mellowed in each other. The gevurot can be tempered by the sweetness of the kindness, and then vice versa. The kindness can. I'm sorry, take it back. Then the gevura, the discernment, the very strict justice system can be tempered by the kindness. Where do you find this concept in the Sfirot? There's something between kindness and justice. What's the difference between kindness and justice? Because Gvura, discernment, is really justice. What's the mediating level? It's called mercy. Mercy is interesting. It knows that this guy doesn't deserve, did a crime, and theoretically justice should be meted out to him. At the same time, you can have mercy to say, despite he doesn't deserve, I'm going to give anyways, because out of pity, out of mercy. So mercy is not blind. Like kindness, love is blind. Loving kindness is blind. It doesn't notice you. Deserving, it's on its agenda. Justice is wise, eyes wide open, and very, mercy is eyes wide open, but still will give even if it doesn't, if the receiver doesn't deserve. And then the 10th sphira, this is the third sphira called Tiferet, beauty. Why is it beauty? Because the sphira also, they're symbolized by different colors. And for example, kindness is white, purity, giving. Gvura, justice, strictness is red, I think it makes sense. Tferes is pink. It's combined. And because mercy can have both. As a matter of fact, it says anywhere in the Torah where it says the name of Havaya, Yud Ke Vav Ke, without qualifying what the act is or the type of role God's playing, it's an example of Tiferet, of mercy. Because again, it's interesting. This third level is where, in a way, while it is, you could say it's a particular pathway, mercy, but the only way that mercy can be is because it's rooted in something above the system, i.e., the infinite oneness of God. Okay, hold on 1 second.
I don't need a timer.
1 second. So this ends today's Tanya. We learned quite a bit. We're not even into the main. I think it's interesting. If we had to give a title for today's Tanya, it is the Kabbalah of the color pink. Although I question if it's actually pink, because there's different ways to mix red and white. You could have it where it becomes, blended, it becomes pink. But it's interesting in Saras, right? Remember the leprosy? One of the signs is white with speckles of red. And I wonder the way, I don't want to take too much liberties, if it would be the Kabbalah of, because you could say mercy is not the blending, it's the holding both things true, which means it's never blending, it's just holding it true. Someone gave an example in science for this once of, you ever make, a dressing, like Italian dressing, or let's say, I don't know, French dressing where there's mayonnaise and oil and stuff. And the reality is when you want to make, I think it's more about mayonnaise type thing. French, how do you take two very different chemicals like oil that wants to rise and let's say water that, and you don't want to separate because it separates, it's gross. So how do they get to stay creamy? This is what I heard. So there's something called in food science, emulsifier. Emulsifier is this kind of third component that can hold the two, let's say, chemicals, that want to dissolve, separate. It keeps it together. So they said Tiferes is not we're like, oh, let's just have mercy and not care about kindness or justice. It knows what justice is about. It knows kindness, and it says I can do both things at once. It's an interesting. I found an interesting analogy.